Andre Robinson's morning routine hadn't changed in 8 years. Wake at 5:30, stretch for 15 minutes, run 3 miles. It didn't matter that he was no longer training for spring season, no longer hearing crowds chant his name, no longer feeling the weight of a bat in his hands. The discipline remained, even in federal prison. At 32, Andre still carried the physique that had made him a rising star in Major League Baseball. 6'4", lean muscle built from countless hours in the gym, broad shoulders that had powered home runs into center field. His dark skin bore no tattoos, his closely cropped black hair was military precise, and his face carried the serious, focused expression of someone who'd spent a decade analyzing pitchers, reading signals, calculating angles. 3 weeks into his sentence at FCI Fort Dix in New Jersey, Andre had adapted the way he'd adapted to every challenge in his career. Observe, analyze, execute. The federal medium security prison operated like any team. Hierarchies, unwritten rules, players with specific roles. Understanding the game was survival. The prison yard opened at 6 a.m. Andre was always first out, circling the quarter-mile track at a steady pace, while other inmates filtered in slowly. Some to lift weights at the outdoor gym, others to smoke and talk in clusters, a few just to stand in the weak morning sun. Andre was on his second lap when he noticed them. 3 men, positioned at intervals around the track. Not exercising, not talking, watching him. His analytical mind, the same one that had tracked 90-mile-per-hour fastballs, cataloged details instantly. 2 were white, heavily muscled with prison tattoos. The third was Latino, smaller but moving with the controlled precision of someone who knew how to fight. All 3 wore the same dead-eyed expression of men following orders. Andre kept running, but his awareness sharpened. This wasn't random. In baseball, you learn to read setups, the way fielders shifted before a pitch, the way a catcher positioned his glove. This was a setup. He was halfway through his third lap, approaching the far corner of the yard away from the guard tower, when they moved. The Latino stepped directly into his path. Andre slowed, muscles tensing. "Wrong track, baseball boy," the man said in heavily accented English. Andre stopped, assessing. No guards in immediate sight. They'd timed this for the morning shift change. No other inmates close enough to intervene. Classic isolation play. "I'm just running," Andre said calmly. Years of facing down opposing teams had taught him not to show fear. "Not anymore." The 2 white inmates closed in from behind, boxing him in. Andre's mind raced through options. 3-on-1, trained fighters, guards deliberately absent. He could take 1, maybe 2, but not all 3 without serious damage. And fighting back would make him the aggressor in the prison system. Extended time in segregation, maybe years added to his sentence. He'd been in the yard 5 minutes. They'd waited exactly long enough to ensure maximum vulnerability. Professional. The first punch came from behind. A kidney shot that dropped Andre to one knee, pain exploding through his lower back. The Latino grabbed his collar, yanking him forward. "Message from Volkov," the man hissed close to Andre's ear. "You don't say no to him. You pay for that mistake. Every day you're in here, you pay." Andre knew the name. Nikolai Volkov. The Russian organized crime figure who'd approached him 8 months ago with an offer. Throw specific games, manipulate pitch counts, ensure certain outcomes. $200,000 per game. Easy money. Andre had refused to do what most players would have done for easy money. He'd worked too hard, sacrificed too much, to destroy his integrity for mob money. He'd reported the approach to league officials, thinking he was doing the right thing. 2 months later, FBI agents arrested him at his apartment. Match fixing, sports fraud, manipulation of game outcomes, all documented with bank transfers, recorded phone calls, text messages, every piece of evidence manufactured, but perfect enough to convince a jury. His lawyer had tried to argue entrapment, tried to show the evidence was planted. But Volkov owned people in the League office, people in law enforcement. By the time the trial ended, Andrei had been convicted and sentenced to 7 years in federal prison. He was behind bars because of his honesty and a crime he never committed. And now Volkov's reach extended even here. The beating was methodical. Body shots that wouldn't leave visible facial damage, strikes designed to hurt without causing injuries that would trigger medical investigation. They worked him over for 90 seconds that felt like hours, then melted back into the general population as guards finally appeared, responding to the disturbance. Andrei lay on the asphalt, ribs screaming, tasting blood where he'd bitten his cheek. Around him, inmates watched with the careful neutrality of men who'd learned not to get involved. A correctional officer, young, white, name tag reading Simmons, approached cautiously. "You all right, Robinson?" Andrei pushed himself to his knees, then his feet. Every movement sent fresh waves of pain through his torso. "Fine. What happened?" "Fell." Andrei met the guard's eyes steadily. Snitching was suicide in prison. And what would he report? That Volkov, a man he'd testified couldn't reach him, had just proven otherwise? Simmons looked skeptical, but didn't push. "Medical? No need. Your call. Get back to your unit." Andrei limped across the yard, feeling dozens of eyes tracking him. The message had been delivered publicly. Andrei Robinson was marked. Volkov's property. Anyone who associated with him was risking the same treatment. In baseball terms, he'd just been thrown at. A pitcher deliberately hitting a batter to send a message. And like in baseball, how you responded defined what happened next. Andrei's cellmate was a quiet Puerto Rican named Luis Morales, doing 6 years for drug trafficking. Luis had the wisdom of someone who'd survived 3 years in the system. He knew when to talk and when to stay silent. He stayed silent when Andrei returned, moving carefully to his bunk. That evening, as they ate the bland prison dinner in their cell, Luis finally spoke. "Petrov's crew." Andrei looked up. "What?" "The guys who jumped you. Petrov's people. He runs the Russian and Eastern European inmates. Controls gambling, drugs, protection. If he targeted you personally, someone paid him. Someone outside." "Why tell me this?" Luis shrugged. "Because you're different. Most guys come in here. They join up with their people immediately. Blacks with blacks, whites with Aryans, Latinos with Latinos. You've been keeping to yourself. Working out alone, staying quiet. I respect that. But after today?" He shook his head. "You need to understand the game." Andrei considered this. Luis was right. He'd been treating prison like spring training, keeping his head down, focusing on his own routine. But this wasn't baseball. This was survival. "Tell me about Petrov." Luis leaned back. "Alexei Petrov. Russian, maybe 40 years old. Doing 20 years for racketeering and murder. Connected to Volkov's organization on the outside. In here, he's got maybe 15 guys who answer to him. Russians, Ukrainians, some Serbians. They run protection rackets, control the contraband flow, tax anyone doing business. Cross him, you end up like you did this morning. Or worse. The guards don't stop him? Some guards work for him. Others just don't care. Long as he keeps violence minimal and contained, administration looks the other way. Prison's easier to run when inmates police themselves." Andrei processed this. "So what's my move?" "Officially, pay him. Tribute. Protection money. Whatever you want to call it. Make peace. Ride out your sentence quiet. Luis paused. Unofficially? I don't know, man. You pissed off someone powerful outside. That's a long-term problem. Can't outrun it in here? Andre lay on his bunk that night, staring at the concrete ceiling, mind working through the situation like he used to analyze opposing pitchers. Problem. Volkov wanted him to suffer. Maybe wanted him dead. Had resources inside through Petrov. Assets. Andre had physical conditioning, strategic thinking, and the ability to read people and situations. But no allies, no protection, no leverage. Traditional solution. Pay tribute. Keep head down. Survive. But Andre Robinson hadn't built a professional baseball career by accepting losing positions. Every deficit could be overcome with the right strategy. In baseball, when a team threw at your players, you had options. You could retaliate directly. You could play the long game, waiting for the right moment, or you could change the dynamic entirely. Turn the opposing team's aggression into your advantage. Prison was a closed system, like a long playoff series. Every player had strengths and weaknesses. Every alliance had pressure points. Petrov ran things because he had numbers and organization. But organizations could be disrupted. Hierarchies could shift. And in Andre's experience, the strongest teams weren't built on fear. They were built on respect. He just needed to figure out how to earn it. Over the next week, Andre kept his routine, but added observation to his workout. While running the track, he noted who reported to Petrov. While lifting weights, he identified which inmates operated independently. During meals, he tracked the social dynamics. Who had influence? Who was respected? Who was merely feared? The prison population broke down predictably. Petrov's Russian bloc, a black gang run by a man named Damon Harris, a Latino organization led by Carlos Ruiz, independent white inmates, and then everyone else trying to stay neutral. Andre also noticed something else. Resentment. Petrov taxed everyone, but his protection was expensive, and his rules were rigid. Several inmates, particularly independents and smaller groups, paid grudgingly, looking for any alternative. On his 8th day after the beating, Andre approached Damon Harris in the weight area. Harris was 43, built like a linebacker, doing 15 years for armed robbery. He controlled the black inmate population through a combination of respect and strategic violence. Harris, Andre said quietly. Got a minute? Harris eyed him. Robinson. Heard you got a welcome gift from the Russians. That's what I want to talk about. They moved to a corner of the yard where conversation was possible, but not obvious. Harris crossed his arms. Make it quick. How much you pay Petrov monthly? Harris's expression hardened. That's none of your business. It is, if I can reduce it, or eliminate it. You got big dreams for a guy who got his ass kicked a week ago. I got experience building teams, Andre said. I spent 10 years in the majors. You know what made championship teams? Not the biggest names, not the highest salaries. It was guys who understood the game, trusted each other, and worked toward something bigger than themselves. This isn't baseball. It's exactly baseball. Petrov's team wins because nobody else has a team. Just a bunch of individual players trying to survive. But if someone organized the others, created real structure, real protection, real unity, the numbers shift. Petrov's got 15 guys. There's 200 inmates in this prison. Even if only 50 organize, that changes everything. Harris studied him. You suggesting what I think you're suggesting? I'm suggesting we play to win instead of just surviving. Andre met his eyes. Petrov thinks he owns this place because Volkov put him in charge. But Volkov's not in here. We are. And I didn't spend my whole life building excellence just to roll over for some mob enforcer. Petrov will kill you for this. Maybe. But I'm already marked, already paying the price. Might as well make it count. Andrei paused. I've got nothing to lose. You, Ruiz, every independent in here, you're all paying tribute to someone who's only powerful because you accept it. I'm offering a different option, which is unity, real organization, mutual protection that doesn't cost a fortune. We build something strong enough that Petrov has to negotiate instead of dictate. Andrei's voice was steady, confident, the same tone he'd used in clubhouse meetings, rallying teammates before crucial games. I can organize it, plan it, build the structure, but I need leaders who command respect. That's you. That's Ruiz. That's the independents who are tired of being squeezed. Harris was quiet for a long moment. Then, you're either brave or stupid. Haven't decided which. In baseball, we had a saying, champions take risks. Everyone else plays it safe and wonders why they lost. This isn't about winning championships. This is about surviving. No, Andrei said. It's about dignity. It's about not letting some outside criminal control our lives in here. I've already lost my career, my reputation, my freedom. I'm not losing my self-respect, too. Something shifted in Harris's expression. I'll think about it. But Robinson, if you're serious about this, you better understand. What you're proposing is war. Petrov won't negotiate. He'll come at you hard, at everyone who sides with you. Then we'd better be ready. Andrei walked away, adrenaline pumping. He'd just committed to a strategy with massive risk. But sitting back, taking beatings, accepting Volkov's control for 7 years? That wasn't survival. That was surrender. This was a chain fastened to his freedom. The only thing Andrei had to do was break that chain, to make everyone believe he could. And Andrei Robinson had never learned how to quit. Over the next 2 weeks, he worked quietly. Conversations in the yard, talks during rec time, building relationships the way he'd built chemistry with teammates, finding common ground, offering value, showing respect. Carlos Ruiz was easier to convince than Harris. The Latino leader was younger, more willing to take risks, and his organization was smaller, meaning they paid proportionally more to Petrov for less protection. You really think we can push back? Ruiz asked during a conversation in the library. I think we can change the balance of power, Andrei said. Petrov's strength is that he's unified and organized. But if we unify and organize better, suddenly he's not the only game in town. And if it goes bad, then it goes bad. But at least we tried. At least we stood up. Ruiz grinned. You know what, Robinson? I like you. You're either going to get us all killed or make history. Either way, it'll be interesting. One by one, Andrei built his team. Not through intimidation or money, but through vision. Through the promise of something better than constant taxation and fear. Through the idea that inmates could protect each other rather than preying on each other. By the end of his first month, Andrei had quietly organized 43 inmates across racial lines. Not a gang, not a criminal enterprise, a coalition built on mutual defense and dignity. And Alexei Petrov was starting to notice. The confrontation was inevitable. It came on a Thursday in the prison cafeteria. Petrov approached Andrei's table where he sat with Harris and Ruiz, flanked by 4 of his largest enforcers. Robinson. Petrov's accent was thick, his voice cold. We need to talk. Andrei looked up calmly, though his heart rate spiked. This was the moment. Succeed here, and his coalition had legitimacy. Fail, and people would get hurt. I'm listening. You've been making friends. building little club. This concerns me. Why? We're just inmates trying to get through our time. Petrov's smile didn't reach his eyes. Don't insult my intelligence. You think I don't see what you're doing? You're trying to build opposition, create alternative to my organization. This is disrespectful. This is dangerous. What's dangerous? Andrei said quietly. Is one man thinking he owns 200 others. We're not opposing you, Petrov. We're just not working for you. There's a difference. The cafeteria had gone silent, everyone watching. This was public theater, and both men knew it. In here, there is no difference. You're with me or against me. Then I guess we're against you. Petrov leaned closer, voice dropping. Volkov paid good money to make your life hell. I deliver on my promises. You want war? I give you war. Andrei met his gaze steadily. I don't want war. I want to do my time in peace. But if you force the issue, you'll find we're ready. For a long moment, the two men stared at each other. Then Petrov straightened. We'll see how ready you are. He walked away, his crew following. Around the cafeteria, inmates exhaled collectively. Harris looked at Andrei. You know what you just did? Started something, Andrei said. Hope I can finish it. You better, Ruiz muttered. Because if you can't, we're all dead men. Andrei nodded. But inside, the old competitive fire burned. The fire that had driven him through minor leagues, through major league pitching, through impossible odds. Alexei Petrov thought he was in control, thought he held all the cards. But Andre Robinson had spent a career proving people wrong. And this game was just beginning. Petrov's retaliation came 72 hours later. Andre was in the recreation room, playing chess with an older inmate named Williams, when two of Petrov's crew entered. They didn't say anything, just positioned themselves by the exits, blocking escape routes. Andre recognized the play immediately. Cut off movement, isolate the target, create controlled environment for violence. But this time, he wasn't alone. Harris appeared in one doorway, Ruiz in another. Behind them, a dozen members of Andrei's coalition, not threatening, not aggressive, just present. Petrov's men hesitated, calculating odds. 2 against 14 was bad math. They left, without a word. That's twice they've backed down this week, Williams observed, moving his bishop. You're changing the equation, Robinson. Andre nodded, but he knew this was temporary. Petrov wasn't stupid. He was regrouping, planning something bigger. The question was what? The answer came from an unexpected source. 3 days later, a young Russian inmate named Yuri approached Andre during yard time. He was maybe 25, lean, with nervous eyes that kept darting toward Petrov's usual position. Need to talk, Yuri said in heavily accented English. Private. They moved to the far corner of the track, away from listening ears. Andre stayed alert. This could be another setup. I hear things, Yuri began, in Russian block, things I don't like. What kind of things? Yuri hesitated, then, Petrov is losing control. Your coalition, it's working. More people joining you, less paying him. His bosses outside, they're not happy. They think he's weak. Andre listened carefully. This matched his observations. Petrov had been less visible lately, his public displays of power diminishing. And? Andre prompted. And his own crew is splitting. 4, maybe 5 guys. They think they can do better job. They're planning to remove Petrov, make it look like accident or gang hit, then take over organization themselves. Andrei's mind raced. When? Soon. Maybe this week. They're waiting for right moment. Yuri met his eyes. I tell you, because Petrov is bad. But these guys? They're worse. They're younger, more violent. They won't try to negotiate or maintain order. They'll just kill everyone who opposes them, including you and your people. Why warn me? You're one of Petrov's guys. I came here because I had no choice, made mistakes back home, ended up in organization. But I'm not killer. I'm just trying to survive. Yuri's voice dropped. These men planning coup? They're animals. If they take over, nobody's safe. Not even other Russians. Andrei processed this information, weighing its authenticity. Yuri seemed genuinely frightened. And the intelligence made strategic sense. Organizations under pressure often fractured from within. Who's leading the coup? Viktor and Sergei, two of Petrov's enforcers. They're bringing in 3 others. They plan to jump him in shower area where cameras don't reach. When exactly? Tomorrow night, after evening count. Andrei thanked Yuri and moved away, mind working through the implications. This was a critical decision point. He had 3 options. 1. Do nothing. Let Petrov die. Deal with the new leadership. Risky. The coup leaders would be emboldened by success and likely more aggressive. 2. Warn the guards. But that would mark him as a snitch, destroy his credibility, and might not even stop the hit if guards were paid off. 3. Warn Petrov himself. That last option was insane. Petrov was his enemy. The man who'd beaten him on Volkov's orders, who'd tried to control him, who represented everything wrong with the prison power structure. But Andrei thought about championship teams, about how winning required sometimes working with people you didn't like, recognizing that a known adversary could be better than an unknown threat. In baseball, you didn't always get to choose your teammates, but you did get to choose whether to play as a team or as individuals. If Viktor and Sergei took over, the violence would escalate. More people would get hurt. The coalition Andrei had built might fracture under more aggressive pressure. But if Petrov survived, indebted to Andrei, that created leverage, created possibility for negotiation, created a different game entirely. Andrei made his decision. Finding Petrov alone was difficult. The Russian was always surrounded by his crew, always protected. But Andrei had learned the prison's rhythms. 20 minutes after dinner, Petrov walked a specific route to make phone calls from the unit's phone bank. Andrei intercepted him in the corridor. "Petrov, need to talk, now." Petrov's expression hardened. "The only thing we'll talk with is our fists. More precisely, my fists and the sound of your ribs breaking. Your guys are planning to kill you tomorrow night. Shower area. Viktor and Sergei leading it. 4 others involved." Andrei kept his voice flat, factual. Petrov froze. "What? You heard me. Your own crew is planning a coup. If you don't believe me, watch Viktor closely. See how he's positioning himself. But I'm telling you the truth." "Why?" Petrov's eyes were ice-cold, calculating. "Why would you warn me?" "Because Viktor and Sergei are worse than you. Because my people will be caught in the crossfire of their takeover. Because sometimes the enemy you know is better than the one you don't." Andrei paused. "And because I don't want more blood. I want peace, stability. This coup threatens that." Petrov studied him for a long moment. Andrei could see the man's analytical mind working, weighing the information against patterns he'd observed, calculating probabilities. "If you're lying, trying to create division in my organization, then you'll know soon enough and you can deal with me. But if I'm right, you have less than 24 hours to handle it." Andrei walked away, leaving Petrov standing in the corridor. That night, he barely slept. He'd made a massive gamble. If Petrov moved against Viktor based on Andrei's intelligence and was wrong, It would cause exactly the kind of chaos Andrei was trying to prevent. But if he was right? The next evening, Andrei watched the shower area carefully during rec time. Petrov's crew was there, including Viktor and Sergei. But something had changed. Petrov wasn't with them, unusual for his evening routine. Then it happened Viktor and Sergei moved toward the shower entrance, joined by 3 other Russians. But instead of finding Petrov alone, they found him surrounded by 8 loyal crew members, including several Andrei hadn't seen taking Petrov's side before. The confrontation was brief and brutal. Viktor tried to talk his way out, claiming he was just checking facilities. But Petrov wasn't listening. His crew moved in, and within 60 seconds, Viktor and his fellow conspirators were on the ground, being beaten methodically while guards conveniently checked other areas of the prison. When it was over, Viktor and his group were taken to segregation for their safety. They'd spend months in isolation, effectively removed from prison politics. Petrov had moved decisively, using Andrei's intelligence to identify and eliminate the threat before it could materialize. 2 days later, Petrov approached Andrei in the yard, alone. "You were right," the Russian said simply. "I know. Why did you do it? Really?" Andrei considered his answer. "Because I'm trying to build something better than what we have, and Viktor would have destroyed that. You, at least, I can work with." "Work with?" Petrov's eyebrow rose. "This doesn't have to be war, Petrov. Your organization, my coalition, we're both just trying to survive and maintain order. The violence, the constant tension, that's not necessary. We could cooperate, share responsibilities, reduce everyone's costs and risks. You saved my life to propose business deal? I saved your life because it was the right strategic move. The deal is what makes sense next." Petrov was quiet for a moment. Then, surprisingly, he laughed. "You are a strange man, Robinson. Most people in here, they want to be top dog or they want to hide. You? You want to reorganize entire prison like it's... What was your sport? Baseball? Baseball taught me that winning isn't about dominating everyone. It's about building a team that works together toward common goals. This is prison, not sports field. The principles are the same. Cooperation beats competition when you're facing common enemies." Petrov studied him. "You know Volkov wants you dead. That's why he had me beat you. Orders from outside. I know. But you're in here with me. Volkov's out there. Question is whether you're going to keep following orders from someone who doesn't care if you live or die, or whether you're going to make your own decisions." That hit something. Andrei saw it in Petrov's eyes, a flicker of resentment, of recognition. "Volkov used me," Petrov said quietly. "Promised to take care of my family if I went to prison. But when I got here, payments stopped. My wife, my daughters, they struggle while he builds empire. I do his dirty work, and he forgets me." Andrei nodded. This was the opening. "Then maybe it's time to remind him you exist. On your terms, not his. You have plan? I have the beginning of one, but I need your help, and you need mine." Over the next 3 weeks, Andrei and Petrov built an unlikely alliance. Not friendship. The beatings and threats stood between them. But respect. Professional collaboration. Petrov had connections to Volkov's organization, phone numbers, contacts, knowledge of operations. Andrei had the analytical mind to identify vulnerabilities and the coalition to provide protection. Together, they started documenting Volkov's prison connections. Who was getting paid off? Which guards were corrupt? How money flowed in and out? The information Petrov had access to was damning, enough to bring federal investigations if properly delivered to the right people. But they needed more. They needed proof that Andrei had been framed, evidence that Volkov had manufactured the case against him. The breakthrough came from an unexpected source: Yuri, the young Russian who'd warned Andrei about the coup. "I have something," Yuri told them during a quiet meeting in the library. "Before I came to prison, I worked in Volkov's organization. Low level, just courier, but I delivered package once to man who worked at baseball league office. I didn't think about it until now, but I remember his name, Gregory Ashton. He was compliance investigator." Andrei's heart raced. "Ashton was the one who reported me to the FBI. He provided most of the evidence." "Because Volkov paid him," Yuri said. "I saw money exchange, $50,000. I didn't know what it was for at the time, but now it makes sense." "Can you testify to this?" Andrei asked. Yuri paled. "If I testify against Volkov, I'm dead. My family in Russia is dead." "Not if Volkov's in prison too," Petrov said quietly. "Not if we bring down entire organization." The plan crystallized over the next week. Petrov reached out to his contacts outside, gathering more evidence. Andrei used his coalition to protect Yuri from any retaliation. And together, they compiled a package of information that implicated Volkov in multiple crimes: the frame-up of Andrei, the corruption of league officials, ongoing criminal enterprises, and a dozen other charges. The question was how to get it to authorities who weren't compromised. The answer came from Harris. "My lawyer is clean. No mob connections. She's fought the system for years, turned down bribe attempts, built reputation on integrity. If anyone can get this information to honest FBI agents, it's her." They sent the evidence out through Harris's attorney, carefully documented and cross-referenced. Within 2 weeks, federal agents descended on Volkov's organization. Arrests followed, including Gregory Ashton, who quickly cut a deal and testified about the frame-up. 3 months later, Andrei stood in federal court as a judge reviewed the evidence of his wrongful conviction. "Mr. Robinson, this court finds that you were the victim of a sophisticated conspiracy to pervert justice. Your conviction is hereby vacated. You are free to go, with our profound apologies." Andrei walked out of that courthouse into New Jersey sunlight, free for the first time in 8 months. Petrov had arranged for a car to meet him. The Russian was still inside, serving his legitimate sentence, but he'd sent a message. "You kept your word. I keep mine. Good luck, baseball player." 6 months later, Andrei stood in Yankee Stadium, not as a player but as a speaker at an event about justice reform and wrongful convictions. His story had made national news: the athlete framed by organized crime, saved by an unlikely alliance with his enemy. A reporter asked him the obvious question: "How does it feel to be vindicated?" Andrei thought about Petrov, still inside but now running a more cooperative organization that reduced violence and exploitation. Thought about the coalition that had stood together against overwhelming odds. Thought about Volkov, facing life in prison for his crimes. "Vindication isn't about being proven right," Andrei said. "It's about discovering that even in the darkest places, people can choose honor over convenience, can build teams that matter, can win by standing together." He paused, smiling slightly. In baseball, the best teams aren't the ones with the most talent. They're the ones that understand how to work together toward something bigger than themselves. Prison taught me that lesson better than any championship season ever could. The reporter pressed, "What's next for you?" Andrei looked out at the stadium, at the field where he'd once played. "I'm starting a foundation, helping athletes who've been exploited by criminal organizations, working with prison reform advocates to reduce violence inside facilities, using my experience to build something good from something terrible." Because Andre Robinson had learned the most important lesson of all, that winning meant more than individual glory. It meant building systems where everyone could succeed. It meant being willing to work with anyone, even former enemies, toward justice. And it meant never, ever giving up, no matter how impossible the odds seemed. The game was never over until the final out. And Andre Robinson had finally come home.